Man, not enough people are swiping right on my Tinder. Maybe if I take my shirt off. It's a small. It doesn't get off easily. That's probably good. Welcome, Potential Matches. I'm Julian, here for D-News. We talk a lot about the changing landscape of online dating because it's a new way for our species to interact, and we're curious about what this means for our collective future, and because most of us haven't given up on the idea of love yet. One of the criticisms of online matchmaking is that it can be shallow, especially if you use certain apps where you make a snap judgment about someone based on their appearance and distance from you. You know, Tinder. But is it possible that shallow swiping could negatively affect how we feel about our bodies and our self-worth? To find out, researchers from the University of North Texas surveyed 1,044 women and 273 men. Why the disparity? Because the study was primarily aimed at understanding how women were affected, though the researchers did find some insight from the men. The survey asked the participants to rate their own body image, psychological well-being, and their perceived objectification by others. Lastly, they were asked if they used Tinder. About a tenth of those surveyed said they did, and those Tinder users generally reported lower levels of satisfaction with their faces and bodies than did their non-swiping counterparts. Interestingly, only Tindering men reported lower levels of self-esteem. Apparently, the ladies of Tinder aren't going to let a negative body image ruin their self-worth. This led researchers to conclude that men are just as affected by exploitation as women, if not more so. The findings were presented at the annual convention of the American Psychology Association by Dr. Jessica Stubel, who co-authored the study. Stubel suggested that the correlation between Tinder and body dissatisfaction could be a result of how the app works. Tinder sort of exists in the upside down. You could call it a dating app, or you could call it a game. And the chief strategy officer of the company that owns Tinder describes it exactly that way. Heck, before I was on D-News, I hosted a show that talked about Tinder and why the gamification of dating was a good thing because it encourages people to get out there and try and win. But some players may have realized that in order to win a game that's so focused on looks, their best strategy is to be attractive. Even worse, as they're swiping left through stacks of photos, it may dawn on them that others are doing the same to their picture. In the dating game, they have effectively become an NPC, and nobody wants to be an NPC. That is one possible explanation, but of course it's not the only one. Stubel also speculated that people with lower self-esteem could gravitate towards Tinder as a means of validation. Of course, as with all surveys like this, it's impossible to tell if Tinder leads to low self-esteem or if low self-esteem leads to Tinder. There have been a bevy of studies about how couples that meet online fare compared to people who use the old-fashioned method of dumb luck to find their soulmate. And spoiler alert, couples who meet online and get married seem to do a little better. But not a lot of research has looked into how online dating makes us feel about ourselves. You know the line, more research is needed. Incidentally, putting that in your Tinder bio is a guarantee swipe right. By me. You've been warned. If you like the game part of Tinder, you could take it a step further and date a video game character. Secret Stories covers what it's like to have a virtual relationship here.
What sets Ultimate Games apart is definitely the amount of reality that we bring to all of our games. You really do feel like you're falling in love with somebody, and you also feel like this really could happen to me sometime, even if it's outside of this virtual world.
And if you haven't found the perfect partner who isn't made of ones and zeros, is it better to settle or be forever alone? Julia and Trace tell you what science has to say about it in this episode.
Researchers from the University of Michigan studied the evolution of risk aversion, specifically related to choosing a mate.
They used simulated organisms to make bets in high-stakes situations, which I would say the once-in-a-lifetime, life-altering decision choosing a mate is pretty high stakes.
So, would you risk feeling less satisfied with your appearance if it meant striking a match? Wait, is that why it's called Tinder? Oh, I get it now. Well, let us know in the comments, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time on D-News.